As we move into 2023, I will be swinging onto the giant, majestic, the word I am choosing to describe, the 5-0 tree, like a terrified baby flying squirrel. Yes, this year is the final domino of my 40s, and left with that as it hits the floor in slow motion, of course, many reflections and revelations. Okay, first, I can't believe I'm here. And by that I mean a few things by here. So, one, obviously, 50 years old. And I don't want to dwell on numbers. I get it, but fuck, 50 is 50. And I understand it can be the new 40, and I don't feel 50 at all. But I also don't know what 50 is supposed to feel like because I used to think as a kid that 50 was so old and so far away. And yet I am here. So this year has been a lot of me uh, processing internally, accepting, as well as redefining what 50 looks like. So here's my old definition. Here's my old definition. The definition that I had as a child. I mean, not even as a child, but as I would say all the way up until like maybe 7 years ago, way into my 20s, even my 30s, when 50 felt so far away. My definition was that 50-year-olds, um, they have teenagers and they have drifted in their marriages and they drive Corvettes and they have bellies and thinning hair. And they are a few years away from playing chess in the park and they live on government allowances or what they have saved in their life. Life is now happening in front of them, right? They're kind of on the bleachers watching life. And they wake up early, not to build their empire, but to watch birds and pee. My new definition, and this is something that I am trying to trace. It's not something that I'm not quite there yet, but this is my new definition of 50. 50-year-olds have toddlers, as I do, to an almost 3-year-old. They choose to have a baby or babies later in life so they can have a life while raising their child or children. They move their bodies like they did in their 30s. I've been posting a lot on social media about swimming toward 50 and a lot of fitness videos because um, I'm not trying to like be as strong or as fast as I was at say 30. I think my peak in fitness was 35 ish. Because I don't know if that's possible unless I started to inject myself with steroids. Um, but I wanna be able to be close to that, right? I want to be able to um, still do most of the things that I was able to do when I was, in my mid 30s. And so I uh, I haven't been doing anything drastically different as far as like diet, but I do, I take a class a day, and I really dive into it. Meaning, I try to stretch my mental capacity because your body can go much further than you think it can. So I just try to stretch that white zone and push myself. Anyway, 50-year-olds are able to shine a light on their shadows, more aware of their dark and unhealthy patterns and how they impact their life and relationships. So this is a really big one for me. I would say that at 50, I have I have some capacity. I am able to now more than ever see my dark, see my shadows, see how my uh, unhealthy patterns affect not only my relationship with myself but other people, and more importantly, so I think now more than ever, I do have the ability, not all the time, but I do have the ability to execute, meaning break patterns, be still, not react, be metacognitive, that emotional speed bump, right? Insert that so I'm not just reacting off emotion. So uh, definitely now today, that muscle is stronger than ever before. That's part of my definition of the 50-year-old. And the 50-year-old, they start new careers. I feel like I'm just getting started, you know? Loneliness becomes solitude, meaning that they have comfort in themselves. They pursue passions, they seek adventure, they have lots of sex. Like in your 20s, but this time rediscovered and new, right? So whatever sex you were having in your 20s, unless that's what you want now today, and of course you don't have to be 50 uh, to redefine yourself, but hopefully it's a new type of sex, it's a new type of connection, and you are exploring and stretching. And 50-year-olds can actually not take themselves too seriously, and 50 is a reunion to self instead of losing oneself. I think this is the most important piece. I talk a lot about how self betterment can be a reunion more than anything. And I think I feel closer to me. And by the way, you, the self with a capital S, I think is always moving. I don't think it's a target, right? If it is a target, it's a moving target in that we are always growing and expanding and changing. And even if it's subtle, um, almost like I think we ebb and flow. We're not stagnant creatures, and so because of that, this reunion to self can be a little tricky. And so I think when you stop peddling the the goal to rediscover, reconnect with yourself, whatever that looks like, when you stop pedaling that bike, you're missing the target, right? And so in order to have this reunion with self, you are constantly pedaling. And for some people that means being in therapy. For some people that means um, fitness routines. For some people there's a social element involved, whatever that means, like for you. For me, a part of pedaling that bike, connecting to self, is allowing myself creative spaces. um, i've always I've always I always I have always allowed spaces for me to be creative from the time, 5 years old on, right? So whether that is creating, I remember I used to dig these dirt tracks. Like I used to dig a dirt track in my backyard, and we would have these little this is back in the 80s, by the way. uh, these little cars called stompers. They were off-road cars that you just turn on and they just go forward. And I would spend hours digging the track in a way where these off-road vehicles would go on the track and not leave, because the roads were dug in a way where the wheels just kind of lined up, and so these little stompers would take the burns and go up and down the hills and all that stuff. Anyway, I'm bird walking, but from those early days to getting obsessed with um, those dirt tracks, to 12 years old playing with Legos and losing track of time, forgetting to eat, and then of course rolling into blogging and social media, podcasting, everything I do today, there is an obsession involved. And I think that space that I create, even writing a book, that in itself is a journey every time you write a book. So that is creating a creative space, and in that space, allowing myself to play equals my reunion with self. All right. The other thing I mean by I can't believe I'm here is I'm no longer in a panic state. And I say this because most of my life, my 20s and 30s, and some of my 40s, I was in this state. And It's the feeling in your body that the other shoe is going to drop, that the sky is going to fall, that you will be found out, that you have not made your way out, right? That you are still trapped and stunted. The sun is always behind clouds. I think a lot of this comes from my upbringing. I think a lot of this comes from my dad being irresponsible with his state and emotions, and that trickling. Um, there's a generational transmission process. That's what they call it in therapy, where well, I guess with that they're talking more about relational dynamics, but either way, there's this passing down process from generations, and what I'm talking about is my dad's energy and irresponsibility of putting stuff on his children because he wasn't aware that he was. And I get it, he comes from a different generation. I always say that my dad grew up making his own shoes, you know, poverty, war stricken. Korea was definitely not what it is now, right? So I think I grew up training my body to panic, to worry, to always. Every day we used to say, what do we sell? Because we had we're Korean, we were business owners, so we had little mom and pop shop. We had a little mom and pop shop restaurant that eventually turned into a Pioneer Chicken and then a Popeyes Chicken. But always worried about sales, and then our happiness or the calm in the family was determined by how much we sold, which I mean, just me saying it now makes me so sad. And so if we sold a lot, then things were good and happy. And if we didn't, the sky was falling. And my dad, being an alcoholic, was always like on cloud nine or dread and worry. Like there was no in between. He wasn't a calm person. When he was happy, he was so fun to be around and making jokes, and his energy was amazing. And then uh, if he wasn't that, then he was worried, filled with dread, just living on a negative, lower frequency. And so I think I took on a lot of that. And so most of my 20s, 30s, and I would say some of my 40s, um, in a panic state, or at least subtly. And I don't think that attracts anything. I think that is lined with desperation. And I think you end up creating your own island, meaning no one wants to be around you, even if it's subtle. I think it blocks good things from happening. Doors don't open. And if they do, you don't believe in yourself or your story enough to walk through them. And you feel like you're in an ant farm moving through tunnels, but not going anywhere. And this feeling manifests into your reality. And by here, I'm saying that I finally feel like I've chewed my way out of this ant farm, and it's freeing as fuck. A new life frequency. That is how I feel today. And one of my revelations as I reflect is that 49 was the tipping point. It's when I finally feel like I've reached the island. All right. My second revelation of 2022 is that nothing matters. And what I mean by this is, as I turn a half century old, this was the official year that I realized that the things I thought mattered so much really doesn't. This was a year I really started to see things through a wide lens, the 30,000-foot view on lock, the cumulative. And it helps put things into perspective, right? No longer living in the trenches. And this is where I think most people, I know at least for me, living in the trenches is what produces anxiety and just scrambling and spinning thoughts and, all of that, right? Falling into that slippery well, as I say. No longer living in the trenches like we all did in high school when everything was life or death. You remember if he or she didn't ask you to prom, or if someone said no to a dance, or if someone didn't like you back, or if you didn't have the designer jeans, or whatever it was, everything was so life or death. And of course, now looking back, all that seems ridiculous, and it didn't matter, right? Things that used to consume me mentally and emotionally, they only give me a slight smack now when they used to bury me. I'm able to pull back, to breathe. Speaking of breathing, to adjust my mind and thoughts into landscape mode. You know that feature on your phone where you can see wide? I truly believe everything passes. Nothing is permanent, no matter how it feels. And we are here on this planet one time as us. So let it go. And finally, my revelation this year is that anything is possible in this world. We may, in fact, we may be the sighted aliens that everyone's seeing now, like posting on social media, actual camera footage, who built the pyramids and have come from the future because we have invented time travel by then. You know what? Anything's possible. I know you're like, what are you talking about, John? Are you telling me, especially in 2022, post pandemic and the crash of crypto and everything that's happening politically, all the rocks that are being turned over, um, it's exciting, it's mind blowing, it's proof that anything is possible because things that we thought wouldn't happen did, and I think that this is a year that I believe that there is no ceiling, that anything is possible. It's kind of like uh, when Christopher Columbus proved the world was round and we all thought the world was flat. Well, like that kind of revelation. I feel like 2022, nothing specific, but in general, like the ceiling has been blown off. And I also believe, by the way, that in my lifetime, we are going to come across some information, some proof that is going to be like that, that's going to blow our minds. Like, whether it's extraterrestrial beings or it's going to be something where we're like, holy shit, we had no idea. We had no idea that there is life in Middle Earth or whatever it is, right? Anyway, to bring this down to earth, people are no longer negotiating what they that they used to, and this is something I think that has happened in 22. Is people now have stronger non-negotiables. They're not down with shitty jobs and uneven domestic labor, and they're not down with losing your life because of kids or toxic relationships. And we all want more and different in all areas of your life. And I feel like 22 is the year that proved that. So with that, I think the next question, as I end this, is what's the new year going to look like for you? If you this year have your own revelations, what are you going to do with those revelations? Because growth is always 50% the revelations, and then the other half of that is execution, right? What do you do with those revelations? Because that's what's going to change your life. Thank you for listening. Be well. Before I leave, real quick, I want to let you know that I created private communities, um, a few of them based on my books. Single on Purpose, that's actually the biggest private community I have. Also, Miserable Fuck, that's or Miserable Fucks, plural, it's a men's group. And then It's Not Me, It's You, it's a relationship community. All these communities in my circle, it's a platform called Circle, so it's super private. It's off of social media. Come check it out. The water's warm. We have thousands of people in there. Just trying to figure out where to send you. Just go to my Instagram at the Angry Therapist, and you'll see it if you click my bio link. Thank you for listening. Be well.